Hi everyone, it's Ray with Tarot Living. I hope you're doing well. I'm actually just working on a few of my kind of tarot on the go videos, but I'm not on the go. I'm actually at home and just really wanting to pull a few cards and do some interpretation for you and then have you think, what do these cards mean for me? Because as I always say, tarot is an art, not a science. So it might mean something different to you. It certainly could mean something from, one client to another client, depending on the question that they have, depending on the energy that they're bringing to the table at that moment. Whenever I do a reading, I'm actually reading the person's energy. And as I just said to a client just very recently, I said, remember that these cards are essentially a mirror of the energy that you're carrying around about whatever subject it is that you're asking about. And so it gives you a glimpse into any barriers, any opportunities, anything that you may need to actually tweak or work on in order to get to the outcome that you're looking for. It gives us really a glimpse and an extra kind of pair of eyes and really understand the lay of the land. So that's how I look at reading tarot. So let's go ahead and read a couple of cards. I'll pull two cards and we'll do a two-card combination and just see what we come up with. Oh, I don't know. I feel compelled to pull that one. See, this often happens. This is the first card. What is it? The Emperor. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull this card. The Nine of Swords. Whoops. Isn't that interesting? Let's see what the other card was that I was thinking of pulling. The Strength. That would be boring anyway. I'm glad I pulled that one. Okay, so the Emperor and the Nine of Swords. I have so much to say about this. So the Emperor card is a really great card. I actually really like the Emperor card. And the reason is because it's a 4. And 4 is my favorite tarot number. So 4s, as I'm sure many of you will recall from my other videos in the past, 4s are a number of solidity and structure and order and form. And I always say, think about a box or a cube, something that's sitting on the ground that's very solid and very structured. No issues. It's not wobbling around. It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. Everything is very structured and very solid. So it's great. However, here's the thing about 4s. So imagine that there's expansion out, but only to the edge of that cube or of that square. That's as far as you can go. And then there's limitations within that. So a box or a cube in and of itself, you can expand out to the edges, but it intrinsically holds limitations. It's like a container that has limitation in and of itself, just intrinsically. It doesn't mean it's wrong or bad or anything like that, but it does have some limitations. And that's where some of the stagnation and the difficulties with a couple of the 4s that you'll see in the deck. So let's talk about the Emperor. So the major arcana, we know, talk really about that journey through our consciousness, through learning, through growth. And actually, I consider there's different ways to actually break up the major arcana in terms of understanding them. I actually look at the first 6. Some people look at the first 7, but I look at the first 6 as being those conscious, developmental stages that we go through. So this is really a role, and it's a characteristic that we're taking on. So the Emperor talks all about being a leader. It talks about the father figure, the authority figure. So when you pull this card, it's either you that is an authority figure or someone in your life is an authority figure. So the Emperor sitting on kind of a very structured, very solid, cement kind of throne with very straight lines. You see that? And he has a lot of power. And so this is a position where you're learning about your own power and your own authority and your own agency over whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're thinking. So there's structure, there's form, and there's order. And if it's somebody else in your life, then often that person is like a boss figure or an authority or someone who is giving you rules and regulations. It can sometimes represent like the government, the big businesses of the world who create structure and order and form and kind of governmental sort of things. So those are some of the things that it can mean. And I'll tell you in a moment some of the interpretations of the two cards together, but I just wanted to explain the card a little bit. And then we have, before I go on, I just want to say that with this particular card, and this is a total aside, but if you ever get this card with a king, they're very similar. They have a great similarity. So if you ever have the emperor or a king or two kings come up, it can often mean that there's power struggles. So whenever the emperor comes up, I'm looking to the next card to determine if we have a power struggle. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, then the Nine of Swords. Oh, the Nine of Swords. Well, that's a pretty stressful card. It's actually Mars in Gemini. So we actually have Aries. This is ruled by Aries, and this is ruled by Mars. So a lot of fire energy, and actually a lot of kind of aggressive, assertive energy going on. But with this particular card, the problem is that the person has all of this angst and all of this difficulty happening, and they're internalizing it, and they're not able to figure out how to get out of it. It just feels like they're so heavy and so much stress and anxiety and lack of sleep and insomnia and a lot of angst. So this card can be very difficult emotionally and mentally. So mentally, you're stuck in a certain place and you have a certain perception and you're having difficulty getting out of that. And in fact, some people consider these swords to be our levels of consciousness and like a ladder. And so we have to climb up that ladder to get out of that, to find a greater and higher scope of consciousness and awareness. And once we're able to do that, then we won't be so burdened and, everything won't be so heavy in terms of holding on to that depression or anxiety or angst or insomnia or worry. This can also be a card of psychologically not doing very well. So these two cards together, it really just makes me wonder, if I had those two cards together, if someone was asking, let's say about a relationship, I might wonder if that person is being controlled in some way within a relationship. If somehow, because if you bring this card in, you don't feel like, you're not going to probably feel like you have as much control and as much authority and as much agency over the situation. So maybe you're feeling powerless or disempowered in some way. So your own sense of authority is being undermined by that Nine of Swords. That's a potential problem. So there might be someone who is really overbearing, who is creating that, sort of inequality or disparity of power. So that could be one thing. It could also be just generally if we take someone else out of the equation. This is really talking about not stepping into your own personal power. So this person is having difficulty really feeling empowered in their own life. So I would say take control of the situation as quickly as you can. Look at your perception. Figure out what it is that you need to do to get yourself out of that perception so that you can have your own sense of authority again. And also think about the fact that this is all about stability. I mean, there's rules and regulations and stability and order and form, and this is like real lack of stability. So this is where we have this really difference of, I'm sure there's better words, but, just a real difference between these two cards. Really, like you've got power and authority and structure, and then suddenly everything is out of control. So it's about saying you've kind of lost control of the situation, or things aren't feeling very in control right now. Things aren't feeling very good right now. So you need to regain that control and regain that power. So climbing up that ladder of perception and awareness in order to find your inner strength and your inner power again. Those are probably some of the things that I would talk about with those two cards. See, it's a good thing that I picked that card that I felt kind of, compelled to pick, because that was a good conversation, I think. So leave a message below as to what you think of it, and let me know. In the meantime, have a wonderful holiday season. Take care, everyone.